Hiya and welcome to this week's episode of Inside Property Development, where we are going to be talking about probably my most favourite thing, and that is £1 option agreements. About what they are, how they work, and why I use them pretty much all the time to do my own deals and have done for many years. So and this is important, particularly when it comes to £1 option agreements, which are what most of mine are, because I know lots of people don't really understand it and think, well, that sounds like bullshit, really. How can you buy land for £1 or control it for £1? Well, you absolutely can, and I'll show you and tell you exactly how and why. So, firstly, what are they? So, an option agreement, just in case you don't know, is just a type of legal agreement that gives you the option to do something, but beautifully not the obligation. Yeah, and I think it was John D. Rockefeller, the American industrialist at in the late 1800s, who I think might have actually been the world's first billionaire, famously said that you should control everything and own nothing. And the way you control things without owning them is through option agreements. And nearly about 30 odd years ago, I stumbled on a book about option agreements. Now, before then, I had been doing small deals, slowly building up to slightly bigger deals. But the size of the deals that I could do was effectively limited by how much money I had. Back in those days, you probably buy a house for 100 grand. Now, I'll buy a house for 100 grand, do it up, a bit of a wreck, sell it for 150 grand. Yeah, and make 30, 40 grand profit, whatever it might be, which was a lot of money there in those days. And then I'd do a slightly bigger one and a bigger one, and slowly doing bigger deals. But basically, the amount of money that I was making and the profit that I was taking out dictated what the next deal that I could do. So it kept me a little bit stuck, and I could only grow so fast. Then all of a sudden, one day, I stumbled upon a book about option agreements, which was a massive eye-opener. And so for the first time ever, I realised that I could control land. I could get an agreement to buy it, even if I didn't have enough money to buy it. And that element of control bought me time, effectively, where I could go away and do something, typically add value to the land, typically by getting planning permission. So that is the beauty of option agreements. They allow you to control things without having to buy them, and they buy you time. Yep. And amazingly as well, you don't have the obligation to do the deal if things change or you change your mind. Now, one of the beauties of that is certainly when it comes to property development, things can change, the market can change and all the rest of it. If I end up having an option on a deal and we get another 2008 and everything goes tits up, I don't want to be legally bound to do a deal that I no longer want to do. That's the beauty of option agreements. So that's how they work. Now, one of the questions I often get asked is, well, why would a landowner enter into an option agreement? Yeah, particularly a £1 option agreement. Now, bear in mind that the pound is not what you're buying their land for. The pound is just the legal consideration to make the contract, the option agreement. It's just a type of contract to make it valid. Yeah, and the reason a landowner would give you an option agreement is because, as always in any negotiation, right? You need to answer the question, well, what's in it for me, and what's in it for the landowner is you will be typically going away trying to add value to their asset without it costing them a penny. So from their point of view, there's no risk, but you just need that element of control that ensures that you can buy the land if you want to, if and when you choose to exercise the option. But of course, you don't have the obligation to do that if you don't want to. Now, of course, you don't tell them at the start that you might not do the deal if everything goes tits up. And also how you persuade them to enter into an option, is quite a key thing in terms of the negotiation. What you say, what you don't say. There are various answers to the sort of standard objections that get raised. But trust me, when you know how to do that stuff, landowners absolutely have no problem entering into option agreements. 95% of my deals to this day are option agreements, and the vast majority of those agreements are £1 option agreements. So these are absolutely doable, and that's pretty much the way I've done all my deals for the last 30 years. Even if and when I can afford now to just go and slap money down and buy something outright, why would I if I can just control it with a bit of paper, with an option agreement? So that is the beauty of option agreements. That's why you use them. And the reason a landowner would be okay with an option agreement is, as I've mentioned, because you're adding value to the land. So typically, just to sort of make the point to it, to explain it, let's just say they've got, I don't know, a house with a big garden, or an old commercial building on a big plot. Who knows what it might be? And let's just say the existing use value of that thing is worth £1 million. Let's just say. But with your planning knowledge and expertise, and this is where planning knowledge and expertise and design knowledge and expertise becomes so important. If you know through your own knowledge and expertise that actually you could go away and get planning for something that would make it worth £2 million, then clearly there is a lot of potential upside in that deal. So just to make the numbers easy, in that scenario, you might approach the landowner, have a negotiation, and end up agreeing and getting an option to buy their land for £1.5 million. Now, from their point of view, it's worth £1 million as it is. They're into an agreement that means you potentially might buy it off of them for £1.5 million. So there's a big uplift in it for them. It doesn't cost them anything. They weren't thinking of selling. They were just sitting there doing what they were doing anyway. It's all your money, all your risk. They don't have to do anything other than sit back and wait and hopefully have the value of their property massively increase. Yeah, so that's it. So you get an option agreement, you go away, you get planning permission. The planning permission makes it worth £2 million. So that's your uplift. The landowner gets a 1.5. So they're happy because you've paid them significantly over and above the existing use value, and you get the rest of the planning uplift. So the name of the game in this business really is making the pie as big as possible, i.e. increasing the value as much as possible over and above the existing use value, and then how and in which way that pie gets divvied up between you and the landowner is basically a negotiation. So that is the crux of how it works. Now, the other beauty of option agreements is if you don't want to develop yourself, you can effectively sell on, assign your agreement to another buyer, and you never have to complete on the deal. You never have to buy the thing. As I say, you just assign it. And using that little example I just gave there, you effectively would be selling your bit of paper on for 500,000, i.e., and then the purchaser would go and complete on the deal at the 1.5. So overall, they paid £2 million. 1.5 of that's gone to the landowner. The other 500's come to you. Obviously, I've just made those numbers up to explain the point, but basically that's how it works. So 100% option agreements work all the time, including £1 option agreements, if and when you know the full mechanics of them and how to tee them up and negotiate them in the right way. But of course, an important part of this, you do need to be able to work out what the end value is going to be so that you can get, you know that you can negotiate and get the option agreement tied up at the right price. One of the things I've seen in the past is people that don't really know what they're doing. They find out about option agreements. They think, well, this is great. I can go and get, secure land even if I haven't got the money to buy it, but they get it secured at the wrong price. Yeah, so they're not good enough about knowing about planning and design and site constraints and scheme optimization and all of the other things we need to have to know about. So they can't put the right number on the land. They can't come up with the right price, and very often they get things agreed at too much. So yeah, look, given that scenario, it's easy. People are going to give you options to buy their land at 10 million quid all the time. But if the stuff's never going to be worth 10 million quid, all that's actually happening is you're wasting your time. So knowing how to maximise land values and come up with the right scheme and the right planning is a key part of the whole process. The option agreement is the legal mechanism you use to control the land, to buy you time to then go away and add planning value, but you still need to negotiate and work out what is the right price going to be. That's basically it. One of the other questions I quite often get asked by people is, well, how about once I've done all of that, the landowner changes their mind and they pull out the deal and they won't sell to me, etc. Well, I mean, it's just like you could say the same about when you're selling a house. You enter into a contract and then the landowner sells, the homeowner, whatever, changes their mind and they won't sell you the house. Well, they've entered into a legally binding contract. If that happens, you sue them and you win. Now, for me, in my whole career, 30 plus years using option agreements, that has never, ever, ever happened. I've never had a landowner get out of an option agreement. And in fact, I've never had a landowner even try to get out of an option agreement. So they're super safe as long as you negotiate them and register them in the right way. And a big part of that is also about what you say and what you don't say in terms of how you negotiate the option at an early stage to keep the relationship good and keep it all on track to make sure there's no chance that a landowner would ever try to renege on a deal. As I say, I've never ever had that, and even if they did, it's 100% legally binding contract anyway, as long as you've done it the right way. And of course, the beauty is also that you can sell them on, you can assign them if you want to. So that's £1 option agreements for you. Absolutely, in my opinion, the very, very best way to do land deals. Why wouldn't you? Even if you had billions of quid in the bank, why would you not control land with a pound if you could? So that's it. Option agreements are the way forward, in my opinion. Absolutely 100% doable. People that say they're not and they're all bullshit, because it sounds like bullshit, right? Controlling land with a pound sounds too good to be true. It's not. It's absolutely doable. I do it all the time. You just got to know how to do it. It is the way forward, in my opinion. In particular, it makes sure you don't have too much cash out all of the time, tied up, stuck in different deals. So from a cash flow point of view, it's brilliant as well. Right, just a quick one. Whether you are a massively experienced and well-established property developer already, or maybe you're a new or aspiring one, either way, you will know that it is really not easy to find viable opportunities to come up with the best scheme, the best design that's going to maximise the land value and fully de-risk things for you, and then to go on to get the very best planning permissions as quickly as possible. However experienced you are, you will know that that is not an easy thing. I have put together a super detailed scorecard based on my 40 years experience in this industry, reverse engineering everything that I've learned, including lots and lots of mistakes over the years, and everything I've done to maintain, touch wood, 100% planning track record. I'm pretty sure there will be stuff that you don't know. Go and do that scorecard. Find out just how good or not your current process is, and I absolutely guarantee you will learn at least a little something, if not a ton. So it's bit.ly
millbank.com/MLA score, all in capitals. You can do the Millbank Land Academy scorecard. I absolutely guarantee you will find some interesting stuff and it will help you get much better deals.
I'm going to tell you exactly how I've managed to maintain a 100% track record at winning planning over the last 40 years. Now, a lot of those applications I've had to win at appeal, but I've always generally known that before I've even started, and actually winning at appeal has been part of my planning strategy. And in fact, having a planning strategy before you even start is a big part of the answer to how I've got 100% planning track record still to this day. So, but before I jump into that, it might be worth telling you sort of how I came to perhaps this realization or learn what I learned. So when I first started off many years ago doing small refurbs and things like that, slowly building up to slightly bigger deals, splitting houses into flats, and then started to see little developments and things popping up in my little patch where I was doing stuff that hadn't been for sale on the market or anything like that. So these were proper off-market deals, and that was a real eye-opener. I all of a sudden realised that there was a way of finding deals without waiting for them to be on the market. But also, importantly, these were things where people were getting planning and adding planning value. So that was a real eye-opener. So for me, I thought, wow, actually, I'm going to start doing that. It seemed like the natural progression to me, you know, small refurbs to bigger refurbs to converting houses into flats and things like that. New build and planning applications seemed like the logical next step. So I bought a house with a corner plot. The house was a bit of a wreck, and there was a plot of land on the corner. The plan was to do the house up, submit a planning application to get a house on the side. So bought the site, bought the house, started doing it up, submitted a planning application. This was in, I think, 1986, so a long time ago now, right? Just a single attached house on the side. Submitted the planning application. Did quite a lot of research actually, reading the policy and stuff like that. Thought I was doing all the right stuff. Submitted the application. The planners said that they were going to refuse it for a whole load of reasons. I basically shit myself and withdrew the application because I didn't want to get a refusal. Yeah. Now, I mean, in a lot of ways, actually, that was probably the right thing to do, because you don't really want refusals on your sites if you can help it. Sites with refusals can sometimes get a bit blighted, particularly if the wrong thing has been said or done during the planning application process. Yeah, so it is possible to apply for the wrong thing, say or do certain things during that first application process, and then get refused, and all of that causes you or someone else a lot of problems in the future. Yeah, so I panicked, withdrew the planning application, so that I didn't get a refusal on that bit of land. What that made me realise is, right, well, shit, right, okay, there's a lot more about this. Why was I going to get refused? What does it all mean? What do I need to know? What do I need to learn? What do I need to understand? So that sent me off on a whole tangent learning about planning. So for me, if you've been watching this podcast for any time, you will have heard this already. If you haven't, go back and watch the episode where we talk about how I got started. One of the things I talk about there is like ADHD, which is something I discovered about a year ago that I've got, which one of the things that means is people with ADHD can be hyper-focused when they find stuff that they really get into. I got massively into property development, was hyper-focused on every aspect of it, and wanted to understand and know it all inside out. So once I realised planning was so important, rather than just try to get a consultant or someone else to do it for me, I really wanted to know it and understand it myself. So I started going to planning committees, I started reading planning reports, I got all of the planning textbooks, real, sort of dense, a lot of it fairly boring stuff to a lot of people, but I was fascinated by it, right? So I started to learn a lot about planning because I'd come also to realise just how important it is when it comes to property development. It really is about land and planning. Of course, yes, we need to build things, we need to know how to build things, but land and planning, which are interrelated, is really where the sort of the value gets added. So I decided to, learn as much as possible about it, and I've stayed on that path and literally made sort of being good at planning my main USP for my whole career. Really is. So basically, I'm a developer. I am a chartered planning and development surveyor as well now, but I discovered very early on, or realised very early on, just how important planning was. So got quite good at that, and that is something that I would highly advise you to do as well for yourself, because it's that allows you to spot angles and opportunities and realise things and think, well, actually, if I might be able to do this and this because I know about a certain policy or a certain bit of case law or something like that. Yeah. So without a shadow of a doubt, knowing a lot about planning is massively advantageous to a developer, and that is really how I've managed to maintain a 100% planning track record. I learned a lot about planning. I know a lot about planning. I am not overly reliant on my consultants. I work with them. It's a collaborative team thing. So they might have an idea, and I'll say, well, what about this? Or I might have an idea, and they'll say, well, what about this? And then, between us all, we'll actually, particularly if you've got the best consultants, we'll come up with the thing that's going to give us the best chances of winning. And on top of that, I am and always have been very detailed. So when it comes to submitting planning, my whole business really, my whole model really has been to reverse engineer everything, look and think about everything that could go wrong, particularly when it comes to submitting a planning application. What are the objections going to be? Who's going to object? Why might they object? What might they say? What does all the policy say? Local policy, national policy, recent appeal decisions, case law. Look at every little thing and see about how that might apply to your site, and then work out, okay, if and when that gets raised, how am I going to deal with it? Think about if and when I get refused, how am I going to deal with that refusal? How am I going to deal with that appeal? Think about what are all the objections and issues likely to be, and either design them away or address them in your planning application. What you don't want to do is be reactive. That's what lots and lots of people do. They don't think these things through. They'll submit a planning application. The planners or one of the statutory consultees will come back and say a whole load of stuff, and then people find themselves in a position where they're like, oh shit, we have to change things in order to deal with that, or we can't change things, and that's now become a big problem. Yeah. By understanding all of the things that might come up before they come up, and addressing them at the application and design stage, that's how you deal with things. So basically, you end up, the real way to think about this is you have to do the planner's job for them and give them all of the answers and all of the information in order for them to make the right decision. And of course, the right decision means approving your planning application. And when you do that, the real name of the game is you've got to make it, the planners have got to know that, well, this person is really on it. It's going to be harder for me to it's going to be more work for me involved in refusing this application than there actually is in consenting it. So I'm going to have to take the easy option and consent it because the bloke's ticked all the boxes. Even if I do refuse it and we end up at appeal, we're probably going to win. We're probably going to lose at appeal. Therefore, let's take the easy option and give them a consent. So that's the general gist of what you've got to do. You've got to be super detailed, reverse engineer everything, think of all the possible issues and objections, address them before you've even started, and do the planner's job for them. That is the simple answer, but of course it's not simple. There's a lot of work in knowledge required in doing that. But of course, what is the alternative? Do it or 90% do it and then get refused, and then you're on the back foot, and then you get refused, and if you do it the wrong way, you even get your appeal refused, and then you're back to a whole brand new planning application again. And what with the cost of all of these things today, there really is, you don't want to be doing, it's hard enough doing stuff once, you don't want to be doing it twice. So that's the answer. So how do you do all that? Well, I mean, of course, you've and I've mentioned this many times before, you've got to find and work with the very best experts and professional team, but you can't leave it just to them. Now, unless you're some massive organisation with a load of experts in-house, then the finance a bit different. But otherwise, you do need to learn and understand quite a lot of this stuff, well, as much of it as possible, yourself, in order to spot the angles, the opportunities and the pitfalls at an early stage, so you can design around them and make sure they don't happen. So unfortunately, really, this isn't really a business that you can sort of do on the cheap or just have a little bit of a go at and not really have the right attitude or knowledge. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, unfortunately, learning in this business can be slow, expensive, and very dangerous. You don't want to be making mistakes with your planning applications just because it's all so costly. And very often, depending on what type of deals you're doing, most of my deals are either subject to planning deals or mostly option agreements, actually, which means they'll be for a period of time. You can't afford to be taking forever to get planning, because otherwise you're going to run out of time and you're going to lose the deal. So that's it. Basically, you do need to know this stuff. You do need to learn it yourself. Now, interestingly, if you want to test your knowledge and see how much you know yourself, there'll be a link around here somewhere to our Development Insider scorecard, which will basically take you through the key stages, stuff you need to know from identifying sites, driving the planning process, securing deals, quickly coming up with the right scheme, etc., etc. It's a really useful thing to do. One, you can test yourself to see where you are and how well you score. But it's broken down into a number of different areas. So you'll be able to find out where, okay, I'm really good at that bit. Maybe there's a little bit of a gap here. That's the stuff I need to know more about. So you can then go away, get that knowledge, read up, watch this stuff, and fill the gaps, basically, which is really what it's all about. So I don't think there is too much more to say than that. Short answer, how do I maintain 100% planning track record? By being all over all of the detail, doing the planner's job for them, so they're making their life easy and making it easier for them to approve me than it is for them to refuse me. That's the answer. Hopefully that's been of some use. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also go and have a little play with the scorecard to see how you get on there. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for tuning in to Inside Property Development. Please remember to like and subscribe. Do join us every week, where we'll be speaking to house builders, developers, experts, planners, and everyone involved in trying to get more much needed housing created the right way. We'll learn together how we can collaborate rather than fight, and by working together, we can all help create better places, spaces and homes, and a much more beautiful world.